Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sold with Updike Pugh.
I'm Jeff Updike.
And I'm Weston Pugh, and this is our 22nd episode. Can you believe we've been doing it that long?
Wow, amazing.
Time flies. Time flies. Well, today we've got a great episode set up. We're going to look at some homes that we're going to look at new construction in Little Forest Hills, and then we'll also go all the way to Oak Lawn and look at construction of condos. So why don't we jump in and let's talk about the first one that we've got.
Okay. The first one that we're going to look at today is at 4777 Cedar Springs Road, and it's unit number 3K. This is a development that is called Parkside Cedar Springs that we've worked quite a bit on. Yeah. You want to talk about location? Or
So the location of this one is a great area. It's a quick jog up to the Love Field Airport if you're looking to commute. One of the other great things is that it sits adjacent to Wycliffe, which can get you to 75, or you can also jump onto the toll road. This area is also a good walking neighborhood and area. There are great grocery stores. You've got Kroger's Signature on Maple Springs, plus you've got Kroger's Signature right there on Oak Cliff. If you're looking for something a little more healthy, you've got Whole Foods on on Lemon. So it's a really good packed area. If you are looking for that kind of lifestyle, this is a great one for you.
It is, and when we were working on this development, we actually sold the entire development a few years ago, and one by one, and a lot of the people that ended up buying there were medical students.
Yep.
They were medical students, residents, people that were associated with UT Southwestern or Parkland, and it's a really convenient location for that. This is one of the Dondy communities, if you remember back, in the 1980s.
Like 7 or 8 of them around here.
Yeah, that's right. There's seven or eight of them around. This was one of the only ones that never made it to being converted to condominiums. They were built as condos, but this was one of the last ones that was built, and so it just became an apartment community. But the units are mostly two-story units. This happens to be a really great corner unit that is on the it's going to be on the southwest corner of Building 3, and it looks out over the parking lot, the dog park that belongs to the property next door. Just really a nice unit. It's I think one of the more sought-after floor plans, being the 950 square feet or so, and 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. Just really a great home.
So this one unit has been completely renovated, so there's almost no carpet, I believe, in this one. The great thing that we did with these is that we left the full-size washer-dryer connection, so it's not one of those stackables as you'll see a lot of times in condos up and down Oak Cliff. This one, as we sold it, one of the things that we found out that was such a big selling point was that there was so much additional parking space. So it comes with one assigned parking space, but the great thing is that inside of the gated community, there's a lot of extra parking space, so you never feel like you're kind of left behind or vulnerable, which a lot of people liked. One of the other things too that is just one of those anomalies is that it has that like 2.2 acre park that's adjacent to it that has the creek that runs through it, and because of that, this park that the HOA manages, you have a great place for pets. So we called it the bathroom run, and it was like started at 7 o'clock in the morning, hit 5 o'clock, and then you knew it was gonna be 9 to 10. So it's a great property, and it's been well renovated.
Yep. They when they did the renovation on this, they took most of the bathtubs out of these homes because they knew that the people would be buying them would really want these stand-up showers, and so they're really modernized from that perspective. They've got new cabinets, new countertops. They have many of them have the tankless hot water heaters in them. So there's a lot of really modern things that were done that make them a much more attractive place.
And the other thing too is that you're able to get into these. I believe this one comes in at 185,000, which is right at 196 a square foot. And as you're looking for affordable lifestyle in Dallas, these become more and more attractive. So it's a great community, and it's a great area to be in for Dallas.
Yep. Very.
Want to say thank you to Keith Callahan for letting us highlight your property. And let's take a look at the next one that we got.
Okay. The next one is in the Lower Greenville Avenue area at 6233 Goliad Avenue. And this is another very in-town, convenient location. It's located not very far off Greenville Avenue, right between Skillman and Abrams. It's
Right.
a little closer to Skillman than it is Greenville. And it sits just to the north of that whole little Lakewood shopping center development. There are really great restaurants down there.
Yeah.
I know you hang
The
out
newest
at,
one that I liked
Yeah.
was Cozy. If
Yep.
you're looking for something that's healthy, Cozy just opened up, and it is a go-to.
and not very far from Times 10 Cellar.
Love times 10.
Yeah, big Whole Foods right there. There's just a lot in that location. And again, this is another one of those houses that is so convenient to White Rock Lake.
Yeah, it is a great, and it also is close enough to the feeders to get you in and out of East Dallas, which is one of the critical things. This house is a 5-bedroom, 3.1 bath. It comes in at 3,898 square feet and was built in 2006, but it was renovated in 2018.
And they did a really great job with the renovation on this.
Absolutely. This is one of those ones where it doesn't, you can't believe that it just has that right look for it. So they've done a really good job of using white oak throughout with the large planks from the front door all the way to the back, which really is the trend of today. One of the other things that they've done is they used either like an agreeable gray or a dove gray, one of the ones that doesn't have any undertones that go to blue or to lavender, and so it comes out as true. Here in this image that we're looking at, this is actually going to be seen as an office. But in this family's lifestyle, it works more as a second living room and maybe more of a playroom. One of the things about this one was that it was very open on the downstairs.
Yeah.
You had plenty of room in that kitchen. It was
Yeah.
one of the biggest kitchens that we had actually run into. And it was an eat-in kitchen as well. So you've got your island, which was honed granite. And then you had a really great secondary breakfast nook that was really good size.
And this has that very popular kind of open floor plan right now where the kitchen opens to a bar, which opens to the living area. And, you know, it really kind of brings the family together in entertaining and eating and socializing.
And this one was really interesting. So that secondary living room that we just looked at in one of the first images, that actually connects to the family room via a wet bar area. And then the dining room connects to the kitchen by a butler's pantry. And that butler's pantry actually has another pantry inside of it. So it was a really good configuration.
Yeah.
Master was enormous, like the size of that. Upstairs bedrooms were also Jack and Jill connection. And then there was one bedroom that was a little bit further off at the end of the house, and it had its own entrance outside, a little patio as well.
Yeah, on the second story, you have a really nice balcony that exits, I believe, off of that bedroom. I know it exits right there off of that patio and wraps around with a staircase going down to the backyard. So you've got, you know, good access up and down there without having to go all the way back to the front of the home. And then below this area is a really great covered patio space. So you've not only got that living space that's inside the house right there connected to the kitchen, but you've got some really great outdoor covered patio space that is, you know, decked out with the fireplace and the TV, and it's a really great communal area.
And the good thing about this is that if you're entertaining, because of the location of the kitchen and the family room with the outdoor covered space, I felt like that everybody could work together in this. So it
Yeah,
has
very
a
much so.
huge extended life. There is still additional space for anything that you wanted to put in the backyard, pets, and I believe there probably would be room for a pool.
Right.
So
And this is priced at $825,000, which is really a great value for that neighborhood. It comes in at about $211 a square foot. And, you know, for the square footage, the style of home you're getting, that's a wonderful value. And we'd like to say thank you to Betsy Sorensen for letting us talk about her property.
yep, great property. So next up on the list is going to be 5715 Willow Lane. It's a great area of Dallas.
It really is. This is, we're going to zip up to the North Dallas area. And this is that area between the Tollway and Preston Road. It is north of Forest Lane. There's this wonderful little single-family neighborhood. I say little, it's several blocks deep and long there. And this is 5715 Willow, very conveniently located to the tollway, as you can see. You can be on I-35. And, you know, those Tex Express lanes on I-35 now have really improved the traffic flow from the way it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Absolutely. You can jump on those now, and you can literally go all the way to Fort Worth on those in about 20 minutes now on those express lanes. They brought them so far down, which is really changing the way people are commuting these days. This is also close to a lot of the private schools. Jesuit is literally just on the other side of the toll road from here. One of the other things, too, is there's plenty of grocery stores. I always like to know where the grocery stores are. This is centrally located for lots of that. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. It's 2166 square feet, and it's a 1-story ranch. So it sits on this street that is a very kind of Norman Rockwell street. Wide are the streets, tall are the trees, and deep setbacks are where the houses start. So it has this really nice traditional neighborhood look. This is typical, but what we're also seeing is there's becoming really strong conversions, and then we're getting a lot of brand new construction in this area as well, as developers really want lots that are both wide enough to fit something and then go back deep enough. And this is one of those neighborhoods that really does meet that. This house, I think that when Jeff and I both walked in, was so well kept. Great original wood floors. It had just a very solid feel. Like, I think that was one of the big things. Like, sometimes we'll walk into a house and you'll know kind of right away that it kind of has a movement, or maybe the windows kind of rattle and it's a little bit different. This one was a very solid.
Very solid
Yes.
home. Yep.
Good construction on this one.
Yep. As you can see here, this has the very traditional living room that's in the front there, and then it wraps around into the kitchen. A lot of times what we're seeing now is the people taking that wall out between that formal living room and the den and the kitchen area, and then opening the den and the kitchen up. This one has really done a great job by still leaving that wall there.
Yeah.
It is a very wide expanse of the kitchen, bar area, and then another living space there with the little eat-in kitchen.
Yeah, they did a really good job on the renovations and the quality and the materials that they chose. The other thing that I really liked about this is it has a true mudroom.
Yeah.
It's got full-size washer and dryer, a folding area, and room for, I believe it was a freezer or a second fridge. One of the great things about it as well is that they went back and it looks like they used old Chicago brick on the flooring, which was a great little catch in that in the mudroom.
Yeah.
So throughout the house, it was easy to navigate. Rooms were made sense, good size. Master was in perfect location as well.
Yep.
Back of the house.
8-foot board-on-board fence. It really has, it just has a lot going for it. And this one's priced at $679,000, which is $313 a square foot. This is on the higher end of some of what we're seeing with the dollar per square foot, but you have to accommodate for how large these lots are up there. I mean, they're just really huge. So we wanted to say thank you to Cindy Farmer for letting us talk about her home.
It was a beautiful home.
Thank you, Cindy. Beautiful.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition back into East Dallas, and we're going to look at one of the neighborhoods that's called Little Forest Hills. Little Forest Hills is actually one of the neighborhoods that was kind of built for the people who vacation close to White Rock Lake. And it sounds funny that you would vacation at White Rock Lake. So what we've seen is there's a change that's happening in this neighborhood, and this is 8815 Forest Hills Boulevard. Beautiful little area. You'll get there, and it's one of those neighborhoods that still doesn't have curbs, which is quite interesting. The yards just kind of blend into the streets, and it's so close to the lake. Like I said, it was a vacation neighborhood that you're seeing this huge surge as the lower portion of the lake really begins to take hold, and Lakewood has really come across strong. We're seeing a lot of homes in this area that are being turned, but also where they're actually taking and building brand new construction. And that's what we have here today. With this proximity to the lake, if you're active outdoorsy, this is a really good strong point for you, whether it's biking or trails or just getting everyone out for a great walk. This is what you'd want to do.
Yeah, if you have like family and friends that love the Arboretum, your house is the gathering point, and then, I mean, it's probably a 10 or 15-minute stroll over to the Arboretum.
Yep.
This is a really great 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. It's about 3,200 square feet with that kind of American farmhouse look.
Exactly.
The columns in the front, the stacked stone, great combination of the stacked stone and the siding that they used on this.
Cement with fiberboard.
Yeah, really nice. The front porch is big enough to have your porch swing or your chairs sitting out on. As you walk into the central hall of this, It's got a really large entry. And then there's a dining room that is off to the left-hand side. And then you continue on down just a little bit to go into the kitchen and the other kind of dining area.
So one of the great things about new construction is the way that they're changing the energy efficiency factors that they're using. So the Sears rating, seasonal energy efficiency rating on the HVAC unit is usually higher. Typically they'll build at minimum with a 2x4. Sometimes, and quite often now, it's 2x6, and then they're foaming it, which adds a lot of insulation qualities. The other thing that we're finding is that radiant barrier in new construction has become kind of a standard, which really helps eliminate that hot box on top of the roof. So new houses like this, even though you're looking at something that this is like 3,200 square feet, it would be shocking if you had very big electric bills in this, just because of what they've done with them.
Your operating costs are going to be really just very well controlled in an environment like this.
And this is one of the houses that we kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where they're really starting to focus on multi-generational houses, where you have the opportunity to have a full a full bathroom down and a bedroom or an office. And they've done this in addition to putting the master down as well. So it has a really good working space. Here's a good example of what a great utility room looks like, with full-size washer and dryer, sink, folding, and you have either freezer or second fridge spacing, built-in cabinets, and a hanging area for drying. This is what more and more people really want. I would dare to say this might be more important to some people now than a media room, but
I would agree.
We'll see. Upstairs is a great floor plan, has a secondary living area, and then 2 other bedrooms upstairs. What we really liked about the way the house sat on the lot was how much clean, clear space was left that was green. And I thought that this would be a really smart location to put a pool in. It just seemed like it made sense with so many of the pools that come in today that are just that perfect rectangle. I thought this was a really easy space to put it in, and I thought it would complement the house quite well.
Yep. And this one's priced at $799,950. That turns out to about $248 a square foot, which again is right in the price point that we think is a good value for Dallas. And we wanted to say thank you to Mary Beth Harrison for letting us talk about her home.
It's a great home. So if you have questions or you want more information about homes or homes that are like this, just reach out to us and let us know. We'd be happy to send you a list, give you values, and then set up some showings for you.
Absolutely.
So
Sure would.
perfect. All right. This is called second segment. So second segment, Jeff put this together, and it's a really educational second segment, because I feel like as basically the pyramid shifts and more people are going in as first-time home buyers, they're not sure, how do I get started? Where do I get started? Who do I contact? And you put together a really good outline on a calendar of how do we get this done. So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about what to do.
Okay. So one of the things that was kind of the impetus to put this together was we wanted to create really a step-by-step guide that's about buying your house within a year. And when you look at some of the National Association of Realtors statistics, there's a very high percentage of the first-time home buyers that are millennial buyers.
Correct.
And many times, millennial buyers are really just coming into their, the years where they're really seeing their financial picture change. And we wanted to make sure that if buying a home is in your future, if buying a home is in your dream, we want you to have a little bit of a plan as to how to do that. And so we're going to start with 12 months out and what to do from the very beginning. Number one,
check your credit score. It's critical that you know exactly what's going on with your credit. This is also a great time for you to play cleanup. And the other thing too is, if you want to, there are services now that you can actually go out and have them lock your credit and not allow anyone else to open, because the credit is so important, because the credit is what established your interest rate, and interest rates are set for 15 and for 30 years.
All 3 of the credit reporting agencies are required to give you an annual credit report every year for free. And so if you go to the website annualcreditreport.com, that is the website that you can register and get all 3 credit reports. As Weston said, the FICO score, which is the way that mortgage companies rate you in terms of what kind of credit risk you are, is going to affect your credit, is going to affect your interest rate. And so there can be, a quarter point, a half point difference between you having a 600 something credit score and having a 700 something credit score. So it really is critically important. One of the things that Weston was also mentioning was that now's the time to start playing a little cleanup. So the Federal Trade Commission says that almost 75% of the people that check their credit score find an error.
Yes.
And it may be a small error, it could be a big error. But even if, your formative years, you didn't quite pay everything on time, now's the time to start working on that and know what you have to deal with.
Absolutely. And 1 year is more than enough time. If you needed to get something handled, you can do that. But if you're trying to scramble and get it done in 3 months, there's a good chance it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And, last of all, if you don't want to go through this process, certainly reach out to Jeremy Radcliffe at SWBC Mortgage, and he will be happy to help you pull your credit report and figure out exactly what you need to do to get on that right path toward homeownership in that first 12 months.
Yep. One of the other things to do now at the 12 months is to go ahead and begin to save you the money to set up for that down payment. And one of the biggest things to do is to kind of, I think I skipped one Jeff pointed out. It says determine how much you can afford.
Right. So, and this is really, it's kind of twofold. It's not just how much you can afford, but how much do you want to afford?
This is some truth in that, because there's a thing called house board, and first-time home buyers kind of experience sometimes when they realize that they are approved for maybe 550, but then they're approved for 550 and they buy 550, and that is all of it. So we kind of work with our clients to make sure that they don't run into those situations.
Yeah, if you're somebody has done a really good job and is not in student loan debt or doesn't have credit card debt or doesn't have a car payment, then you're going to be approved for probably a much bigger mortgage than you want to end up with, because lenders are going to allow you to spend up to 43% of your gross monthly income for all of your credit obligations. And so if you're qualified when you have no other obligations, they're going to approve you for more.
Yeah. So this is a great time, as Jeff was saying, determine how much you can afford. And then now we skip into planning for the budget of your down payment. So a great way to do this is to look at what you spend on an outgoing, and then begin to pay attention to what it is and find out what you can set aside monthly on this.
It's and there are a lot of other ways that, depending on, there are government programs that help if you are a teacher or you're an EMT or a firefighter. There are programs out there that will assist you with your down payment through community grants. There's a variety of product out there for you.
There's even programs out there that are for doctors. So if you're actually doing your residency, they actually look and forecast what they think you're going to make, and then kind of base a little bit off of that.
Yeah.
So they actually work a little more with those student loans. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, and you need to be sure that you start banking this money now, because mortgage companies are going to want to see that this money has been in your bank account for several months. And it's really, they're trying to just make sure that the money you're using really is your money.
And what's that term called? Because the first time I heard it, I was like, what term are you using for my money?
Season?
Yeah. So they're going to say is that they'll want that money to be seasoned. And that means that it's been in the account for a certain number of days.
Yeah.
So typically that is
90 days.
90 days.
Yeah. And you can still use gifts from family members. You can use documented work bonuses. So, if you know you've got a big bonus coming at the end of a year, then that can certainly be used. That money doesn't have to be seasoned for that 90 days.
And can't you use a portion of your 401k for the down payment on your house?
You can actually borrow against your 401k. Whatever payment you have to make to replenish that is counted against your debt to income ratio. But it's certainly another way to be able to leverage an asset to gain another asset.
Exactly. All right, so what we're going to do now is we've looked at the 12 months and we've given you a couple of bits of advice. So now let's go ahead and shift gears and let's talk about what happens at 9 months. So 3 months down the road from there, we want to prioritize what you want.
Yep. And this is really, just kind of put pen to paper and figure out what's important to me in terms of my new home. Is it going to be the location? Is it having a great yard? Is it having an open floor plan? What are the 10 top things to you?
And one of the things that Jeff and I do is what we call is a needs analysis. And so we like to sit down with buyers prior to actually getting in the car and opening doors and visit with them and talk to them about what is their needs and wants and kind of whittle it down. Pets, schools, commute time, all of these things play into the perfect home. And what happens is that you'll realize certain things become less important when something is a shiny star that you didn't realize you really wanted.
Yeah, it's a great time to begin to research neighborhoods and go through open houses. And that is something else that's going to help you figure out what you like and what you don't like about houses. Doing that component of this, which is our next bullet point in 9 months, it's just a good way to gain knowledge about what different price points are and what are different neighborhoods and what are kind of defining lines.
Because as you do this neighborhood research that Jeff's talking about, one of the things that happens is that when it comes time for you to make a decision closer to 3 months before you're ready, you're able to pull the trigger because you've seen homes for 6 months versus someone who's going to buy a home and they've only looked at 2. They get really nervous, which is completely understandable, that they're actually making their purchase on the first time that they've seen a home.
Yep.
So it's also helpful in that the buyer kind of gauges when someone's overpriced and they can make an assessment that says, I love the home, but this person's 20% overpriced. And that always is helpful.
Yeah, and at 9 months out, it's also a good time to begin budgeting for some of the miscellaneous expenses that are associated with a home purchase. When you first get a home under contract, you're going to be required to put some earnest money up. You're going to pay an option fee. You're probably going to pay for your appraisal. You're going to pay for an inspection. So there's things associated with that purchase that you've got to have some money set aside for.
Yep. And so kind of going back with what Jeff's saying about being ready for when that actually happens, the other thing too is begin a maintenance account. And so Jeff said it earlier today that if you ever think everything's done on a house, that's not a real likelihood. There'll always be small things to do, and just kind of familiarizing yourself with just having that cash on hand ready to make small changes, whether it's a hose bib that needs to be replaced or you want to buy a new pump filter for the pool. These things actually, just being ready for that is important.
It is, it's one thing to suddenly be hit with a $500 plumbing bill, but it's another thing to have to put that on a credit card where you're paying 18 to 21% interest. It's just a really good plan to have.
Yep.
So jumping next to the 6 months out, this is really where you start collecting all your loan paperwork. And this is going to be, lenders are going to ask you for 2 years worth of tax returns, W-2s, bank statements, any of your investment account statements. It's really all of that financial information that they're going to need to approve you for the loan.
And the deal with why we kind of put this at the 6 month is because if you get to that point where you're ready to pull the trigger on a home, you can't have this information 6 months to a year old. It needs to be as fresh as it can. So with this, getting this to Jeremy, this kind of gives him a guide to know what additional paperwork you might need to track down for him. But it also gets it as more accurate as you can, so you can use it if you need be.
Yeah, and this is a great time to talk to Jeremy, review your plan, kind of, just make sure that nothing has changed dramatically. Have interest rates changed a bit? Does that change your qualifying any? It's just a great time to kind of refresh your review on that.
Yep. And now the 3 month section, now this is when things get fun. So now we've done all this. We've laid the foundation, basically. If we talked about it in home terms, we've laid the foundation with the paperwork, and we've done our due diligence, and we've started saving money, and now it's time to start having fun.
Yep.
So this is actually when you get pre-approved for your loan, and there's a difference between pre-approval and conditionally approved.
Night and day.
Tell us what it is.
The difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved is, and with pre-qualified, a lender has probably looked at your bank statement. They have probably pulled your credit report. They've probably looked at a payroll check stub to document all of that. But they haven't really put the whole loan together and put it in front of an underwriter. And, with a pre-qualification, they're going to give you a letter that says you are pre-qualified subject to this, subject to that, subject to this. When you are truly pre-approved, you are almost shopping with, it's very similar to shopping with cash, because an underwriter has already approved your credit report. They've already approved your income. You are 10 steps down the road with that type of letter as opposed to a pre-qualification.
So one of the things that this does as a buyer, the benefit to you is that this allows you to kind of jump ahead of the line. One of the things that we always do when offers come from us to our other agents is that we explain to them that our buyers are pre-approved and talk to them about that, what that means, because not everybody knows, even in our industry, to give them the heads up so that they can share that with the seller as well. Because sometimes it's not just the price that you're paying for the home that gets the deal done. Oftentimes it's the other considerations. If you've been pre-approved and you're with a reputable mortgage broker versus somebody who's online, it can make a huge difference between you getting the house or getting back out in the car and shopping.
Absolutely. And it's once you have that pre-approval, you can make your offer not even contingent on being approved for the loan.
Yep, still contingent on the property appraising, and the title. But other than that, you are clear. So it's a great way. And then it's time to call us, and it's time to go shopping for homes.
Yep, that's the fun part. One of the things that we can do is set up some different searches for you that can give you different neighborhoods to look at, can give you different price points to look at. It's just a way for us to begin sending you information about houses that is going to help you narrow it down. I want to say one thing in here about if you can use a lot of the Zillow websites and things like that, but in many instances they may not have the freshest information.
Correct.
And so I'm not discouraging you from using those because they have a really good consumer experience, but many times it's not to their benefit to keep the freshest information out there. They like to have more properties than others do. Where, we're working with a guy right now that sent me 3 houses last night.
They're sold already,
and they are all under contract, but they don't reflect that on that company's website.
So one of the things that we like to do for our buyers is we set up portals for them, and the portals allow us to get you information that's called ASAP. So as information comes into MLS, it actually goes directly to you via email and happens in real time. This isn't always important, but in certain markets like spring, summer, it really does kind of become critical. And if you're in a situation where you have to buy and you need to get in the car with us, then we can have that happen. The other thing too that I love about the portal is the portal actually allows us to communicate back and forth to each other. So someone will ask what the taxes are, or is there any information about the warranty or the foundation? And we're able to go back and forth, and it holds it to that property so that they can go back and review, because as your portal gets bigger, you may have questions, and it's a really seamless way for us to stay on top of what's happening in the marketplace.
It is. The portal can, you may look at a home in there and ask us information about it. We provide the information, get questions answered, and then you might decide, gosh, I know enough about the market that house is a little overpriced, so I'm just going to set that aside for right now. But then 2 weeks from now, that house may have a price change, and suddenly it's, within where you feel that property's worth.
Oh, and if that does happen, we're not going to send you a message through the portal. We're going to text you or call you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If it's that good of a deal.
Yep.
So
that's our 3 month out. Next, we're going to jump into the 2 months out. And this is where it really gets fun.
Yeah, this is when you actually start making offers. Hopefully everything that we've done up until this point, and we'll talk to you about the contracts, talk to you about what making an offer means, and where you are held, where the contract becomes unilateral and it's you getting to make the decisions. This is a really interesting time. It's quick. It seems like things happen really fast at the beginning, and it's a great time. I feel like people get more excited about what's happening. Dreams actually start to shape into a reality, and this is a great time.
Yeah, it's when you make your offer, it's the point where you get the first offer jitters, and we get to sit down and go through the contract and kind of understand how it's going to work. You get in our market now, the best homes still get multiple offers.
Correct.
And so you really need to be ready to pull the trigger on that and know enough about what's going on and know enough about what you want, because you want to be one of those first people that makes an offer, because if you don't make your offer, you're never getting a chance to be accepted.
Right.
So, and you may have to make multiple offers, because if yours may not be accepted, or you may be the one that's accepted, but you may get down the road and find that the house condition wasn't quite what you thought it was. And so that's, part of the process of being able to terminate a contract.
And that's the great thing about having that working history that we've talked about, because you've been doing so much beforehand, is that if that condition isn't right after you get it under contract, because you've done the different inspections and we'll help you with the option period and making sure you may take advantage of those, we will help terminate the contracts. And many times we'll tell clients, I think it's time for us to terminate.
Yeah.
And people appreciate us, and the honesty is that it is time to terminate and we're going to find another property. And because that portal has not changed, we'll still know when the right one comes on the market.
Yeah, and we kind of jumped into our second bullet point, which was be prepared to do a home inspection. We've got some really good inspectors that we've worked with before. You may have referrals from friends or family. They are all licensed by the state of Texas, and they all inspect to the same form, although there's a lot of subjectivity that comes into it. So just be ready to do that. And then last of all, be ready to arrange your home insurance. It used to be that you could call your buddy, the insurance broker, up and have a policy issued in 24 hours, and it just doesn't happen that way anymore.
It does not. And if you don't have your insurance in place and it's closed and funded, you really might not get to take possession of that house if it's not in place.
Yeah, if there's a mortgage involved, you won't even get to close. So
It's very interesting
Yeah.
these days.
this is a really good time for you to be thinking about, okay, I'm going to have multiple policies now, because potentially you're going to have your home and you're going to have your auto. It's a good time to shop around and find the best rates for that. So,
Yep. Last but not least, we're going to come into the last month.
last month is number one, triple check all the financial documents. Make sure that you have the most recent copies of everything that's there. Number two, get home insurance issued. You have, in that last, the 2 months out, you have been under contract, you've had an inspection, you've talked to a couple of different insurance agents. And then this last month, now is the time you need to decide which policy you want, what type of coverage you want. And then,
I always want to arrange the move. And I have had so much experience. So I did new home sales for 5 years in San Antonio, and I have never seen more tears shed than after they close.
Yeah.
So you can't time the closing and then the move in to happen in the same day.
Right.
And in fact, it's even difficult if it's in the same week. So giving yourself a time to close and then a time to move in is ideal, because there will always be a moving target, and there could always be something that could get in the way of making that happen. So
And if you've got that kind of pressure on you where you have to move out of an apartment, you're put in a corner, and it's just not a good position to be in, to have to make a hard decision.
it's a horrible position.
Yeah. So if you've got a couple of weeks of overlap there,
Yeah.
or plan for it, you may not end up with it, but if you plan for it, it's a much better position to be in.
Absolutely. Not having to move in that night when you're exhausted is amazing. A slow move in, always the best scenario.
Yep. And the last 2 days, number one is do your final walkthrough. And in that final walkthrough, you're going to make sure that the house is still in the condition it was when you put the contract on it.
Correct.
In some instances, you may do a seller leaseback where the seller stays for 2 or 3 days. And, it's not going to be totally clean at that moment. It's going to have boxes
swept.
piled around, but, it's, just be prepared for that. And then last of all, arrange to get your cashier's check or to have your money wired to the title company.
Yep. And one of the things that we actually have new forms for is the wiring fraud. So real estate has become a big target in the market right now for wire fraud. So always check with both your lender, title company, and your agent before any money is sent or received.
Yeah, yep. Don't arrange for wires based on email. If you are in the middle of a real estate transaction, the wiring instructions will never change. That is the big thing to remember.
Yes, hear that. They will never change, will they?
They will never change in the middle of a transaction. And then, guess what we get to do next?
Move in.
Move in.
That's part of the whole thing.
Yep.
Move in and call it home.
Yep.
So, well, we hope that you have found that really interesting. Lots of good information. If you'd like more information about some of that, and if you'd like to look at buying a home and want to sit down with us on a needs analysis, we'd be happy to sit down with you.
Yep. And we want to say thank you for tuning in with us today. There's lots of ways you can reach out to us through our Facebook page. You can comment or like our page and talk about today's show. reach out to us through our Instagram page. We've got lots of information, more graphical information about houses that we have for sale there. And then you can also go to our website, updikepugh.com, that's got more detailed information about the process of buying and selling a home. And then last of all, homeprice.fyi. That's a great place to go if you've got a home that you want to get a value on. Go put your address in, provide a couple other pieces of information, and you will instantly have a value. Last of all, reach out to us in the very traditional ways. Our phone, 214-377-2223, rings to both of us.
Yep.
And we would love to talk to you.
Yep. So tune in next week, episode 23. We've got houses we'll be highlighting all the way from Euless to Heath. And then we're also going to do a little bit of a dive into actually what it cost at closing for buying a home. So
Thank you for being with us today. And remember, we want to be your realtors for life.